This is a demonstration of a project that I've been working on, and you can see the glitchiness. What I'm doing is recording my television with my phone camera rather than, for example, getting the captured output of the graphics program that I'm doing. And that's because that's necessary to see this effect. I'm using some tricks, and that's where this glitchiness is coming from, because of this tricky technique that I'm using. So let me try to explain what's happening. Even though on the television itself we see 4 distinct bars of color, that's not what I'm doing graphic-wise. Instead of generating 4 horizontal bars, I'm just clearing the entire texture to a single color. So at different points I would do a clear to blue and the entire texture would be blue, and then I do a clear to green and the entire texture would be green, so on with yellow and so on with red. It's just a single color all the time. And the reason that you see these horizontal bars is because of the way that the graphics card interacts with the television. And so the television updates not instantaneously, but one horizontal line at a time. So if you had a slow motion camera and you recorded a television set with any kind of content, not just this demo I'm doing, you would see it change from the top and then going down to the bottom, and then it would jump back to the top and start updating and doing the next frame. And so rather than every individual frame happening instantaneously, it is a constant starting from the top, going down to the bottom and updating until you see the next frame, and then it starts at the top and you start seeing the following frame after that from the top and going all the way to the bottom. And so in order to generate this effect that we're seeing now with the horizontal bars, I'm taking advantage of that update, the way that the television updates. And so I'm switching the entire screen at a precise time to catch that update cycle, that refresh cycle. And so when it starts, when the refresh starts, when the graphics cards start sending out the top line, I try to switch the entire texture to blue. And so if we'd get the first line that's blue and then the second line that's blue, and it would go down to about 4th way down the screen, and then I would switch the entire texture to green. And so the graphics card knows that the entire texture is green, but the television is still in the middle of its refresh cycle. It's already got the top 4th, which is blue, so then it keeps going, and now the update it's getting is green. And once it gets to the middle of the screen, I switch it to yellow, and then it keeps updating with that yellow, and then when I get to when its update cycle gets to 3/4 of the way down, I switch the entire screen to red, and it finishes out. You can see that I don't have it perfect at the top. The red is kind of bleeding into it, so I'm not starting right at the top, I'm starting a little way down, and that means that I don't have the exact timing quite right. So let me explain the 2 things that are challenging about doing this. The first thing is knowing what the refresh frequency is. This television is running at 60 frames per second, but that's not enough. You have to measure it to get the exact time, and it might be off by a little bit, and the way that the television, the graphics card, and the CPU clock are, they might have slight differences. So you have to measure that, but that's pretty easy to do. But if I didn't have that right, then the size of the bars I'm doing wouldn't match the size of the TV. So you might see it like the entire thing would look like it moves down and then or up or something like that. But so the fact that they're staying stationary shows that I have that pretty good. But the second thing you need to know is where that refresh happens, called the V-blink. You need to know when it starts at the top and when it starts at the top, because that's how you position it in the right place. And so, like I said, the fact that I have it down a little bit, you can see some red, means that I'm not starting that blue right when I need to. I'm starting it a little bit late, but still close enough. For what I'm doing, that and these glitches, I think after reading online a little bit, that's not necessarily indicative that there's a bug in my program. Instead, I think that what's happening is the graphics card is going into some sort of power saving mode, which it does intentionally, and it does that because I'm not rendering a lot. So like I said, I'm only clearing the color 4 times, and that's really easy to do. And so I think that's why we get some of these glitches. When I first start the program, it is in the right place and you don't see these glitches, and then after just a second or two, it kind of goes into this mode. And so I think that's what's happening. And if I were rendering an actual scene, a complicated graphics and doing this, then maybe it would be correct. But that's good enough for my purposes. This is something that I've wanted to do ever since I read about it online a few years ago. I thought, oh, that sounds fun, a way to prove that you understand the timing. And so I'm pretty happy to finally do it. The fact that the lines generally are in the right place if you ignore the glitches, and shows that I'm doing this right. So this is a cool trick to take advantage of the way that a television refreshes itself, and making sure that from the computer standpoint you can time that accurately and know when it happens.